have faster shift times and smoother behavior of the automatic transmission? If yes, then you should definitely have to try out software for automatic transmission developed by Alpine. By the way, I'm Vladimir and you're watching the BimDoc channel, probably the best source about BMW coding and programming on the whole internet. Sounds interesting? Let's go! In today's video, we will discuss why software is so important in modern BMWs, why to choose software developed by Alpine, and of course, how to do it by yourself on your own BMW. To give you the best possible experience, I will divide that video into two parts. Part 1 will be today's video, we will discuss the points I have just told you, and the second part will be my driving experience with software in my tranny from Alpine and also some measurements. So not just a feeling, so I feel that or I feel that, but the measurements, real-time measurements with regular software and software developed by Alpine. So you'll see by figures is it better or not. Part 1, the software. Obviously you know that vehicle consists from different ECUs, that's electronically controlled unit. To work properly, each ECU requires its own software to know how to work with other ECUs and other components of the car. So, software is a very important part of your vehicle, and updating it regularly up to the standards is same critical as changing engine oil, all the filters and so on, because without the software, modern cars just cannot behave properly. Obviously, I've heard a lot of stories from your neighbor, friend or whoever about chip tuning the engine. By the way, I have really good video made about that, it should be somewhere over here, and just see that video if you haven't seen that. Over there I'm discussing what is the chip tuning of the engine, what are different stages, how it should be done and so on and so on. So, but in that video we are going to the transmission. If the ECU of the engine can be chip tuned, why it cannot be done with the transmission? Actually it can be done and it should be done. So if you are chip tuning your engine, chip tuning of the transmission is just addition to for better performance. With the tuning of your transmission there are two options. Number one is the same as tuning your engine. You are reading software out from that, you are calibrating that and putting that back over there. And the second option is choosing the proper files made by BMW and more specifically by the Alpine company. Actually it is tuning company and they are making really good software. So point number 2 of our video, why to choose software developed by Alpine. Alpine is a very good company that is specializing on tuning very good BMWs and making them even better. They are taking vehicle apart, modifying a lot of parts of the vehicle, especially the engine and the gearbox, adding a lot of custom details to the vehicle. They can make even a handmade saloon and so on. And they are making their job so good that even BMW authorizes them. So, software made by Alpine is not somewhere in the garage custom made or whatever. It is very good level engineer product. So, what advantages does Alpine software gives to a tranny? First, the algorithm of working of the transmission totally changes. The transmission behaves way different way. The shift times are being reduced, so transmission is able to shift gears faster and smoother. Also, some visual changes, for example, on your cluster, you'll be able to see on which gear you're driving at the moment in comfort mode. So not only in sport mode like S1, S2, S3, but also in the comfort mode, you will see on which gear you are located. Actually, you can see the picture over here, how the gears are shifting, and you'll be able to see that during the regular exploitation of your car. And the best part to addition to all of that is the software developed by the Alpine, it is free. You can find it in the BMW databases, no special download, no anything is needed. So if you know how to program your BMW, you'll be totally able to program your transmission with the Alpine software. Guys, if you do like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. That will really help my channel to grow and motivate me to make even better videos for you. Thanks. And now part 3, how to do that. But before we're switching to the E-Sys and the technical procedure, how to flash the software developed by Alpine into your tranny, you should know where it is applicable and where it is not applicable. Unfortunately, Alpine software cannot be deployed to all BMWs. Why? It can be deployed to E, F and G series. In today's video, I'll cover in more details F and G series. I'll not cover E series in today's video. Why? because working with the E-Series requires another tool set than F or G series. The principle will be the same. It is doable on the E-Series, not all of them, mostly on the diesel engines like a 3-liter diesel and some bigger gasoline engines. But yes, the principle is the same, approach is a bit different. That's why let's concentrate on more newer BMWs like F and G series. How to know, does your vehicle support Alpine transmission software or not? You have to see how the Alpine is working. For example, let's take F series. On F series, Alpine was developing software for BMW 3 series, that's called B3, 5 series, B5, or 7 series, B7. For example, let's take B5. That will be BMW 5 series in F10 chassis. You have to see which engines Alpine choose to work with, because with each type of engine there comes a specific type of transmission. The lower end engines like 2-liter gasoline or diesel engines, they have way weaker transmission. It just cannot handle all the power and torque that engine develops. That's why Alpine just skips it and is not developing, not tuning those, because there is no so much potential in it. So if you have 3-liter diesel engine, it means you will have the proper transmission to work with Alpine software. To sum up really quickly, I'll show you that small table over here. It's not the complete table, so if you cannot find your vehicle there, it doesn't mean you cannot deploy Alpine software in your vehicle. But if you can see the vehicle there, so it's very good sign, so you are good to go. As you can see, all the cars to have 3-liter diesel engine or bigger are suitable for the Alpine. Why? Because that engine comes with a transmission ZF 8HP70. Lower end vehicles and engines have another transmission, for example 8HP45 or 50. That transmission is just too weak for good software. The table I have shown you is from the F series, yes. Unfortunately, I don't have the same table for the G series, but today we'll be working with the G30. I have my G30 for today. I have 3-liter diesel engine. My engine is B57 and it comes with the proper transmission. It is ZF 8HP70. So, as you can see, even if your vehicle was not listed in the list I showed you before, it doesn't mean anything. If you continue research, use the approach I'll show you in that video, there is high chance you'll be successful. You have to understand that the main idea of my channel is to give you idea how it should be done, to teach you the principle, not the exact movements. Because in my opinion, it is way more important to understand the principle, how the system is working. And if you know the principle, it is way easier to succeed in something else that is slightly different from the example shown in that video. Now it's time to go to my garage and I'll show you how to make your BMW even better. So, why do we need to go to the garage to make the job properly and not making at any whatever random parking lot? Because the procedure we'll be making is flashing the software, and flashing the software is a risky procedure because if something goes wrong during the flashing, you will just ruin your ECU. At the moment we'll be flashing our gearbox, and can you imagine what will happen if your gearbox will be not working anymore? Of course, your transmission will not work anymore and you'll be just staying at that parking lot forever. So I always do recommend you to use additional power supply to your vehicle during the programming process. If you're programming the whole car without the power supply, it's not doable in any certain circumstances. But to be honest, flashing the Alpine software will be just putting only one file into your transmission ECU. The procedure will take around maybe a couple minutes, and that's why if your battery is well charged, you can proceed forward without additional power supply. If you're doing it straight away without any errors, you'll be good to go with that. But if something happens, for example, software does not go in or whatever other error happens, if you don't have additional power supply, you'll be limited with the lifetime of your battery in your car. That's why I highly recommend you to use power supply if you do have that. Needed tools for that procedure are, because we're working with the F or G series, E-net cable is more than enough for that. If you have ICOM, yes, you can use that, but that's not mandatory. If you have E-Series, then ICOM is the only solution. So no DCAN cables, nothing else, or working on the E-Series. Of course, if with the E-net cable, if your laptop does not have Ethernet output, so you can use that kind of adapter, USB Type A, Type C to Ethernet, it will work also fine. Also, will require some kind of laptop, absolutely with the BimDoc sticker on it. Without that, flashing process will just fail. On the laptop, you'll require E-Sys and full databases. Guys, one small remark: if you see something during that process that you have done in different way, for example, I have shown you the table for the F series with different combination of the codes needed. I'll be working on my G series today. If you have done the same procedure on another G series in another chassis with another engine, and you know all those type Schlüssel combination or type code combination, please write them in the comments, because I will definitely guarantee you all the guys all over the internet will appreciate you. Thank you. Now let's connect car with the power supply, fire up our E-Sys and start working. The power supply I'm using to work with BMWs is not the cheapest one. That's G-Flash with 100 amperes. It's really powerful beast. It's very expensive. If you don't have that in power supply, you can just prior the work charge your battery with cheaper one. For example, that kind C-Tech, it is only 5 amperes. It will not have enough power to supply the whole car, all the ECUs during the flash process. But if you with that pre-charge your car, for example 12 hours before the work, you'll pre-charge your battery, you'll be good. Because believe me, most of the errors that can happen during the flashing process are power related. If your battery gets drained or your power supply just blows up during the flashing process, that will cause a peak of the electricity in your car, and that will cause the failure of programming. If you don't know how to properly set up the connection between the car and your computer, see my E-Sys for Dummies Part 1. Over there I'm in great detail describing all the procedure and why it's needed, how to perform in the way to succeed. Thing you need to know is that for the programming, for the coding, for the diagnostics, for whatever procedure you're working with the BMW, procedure will be the same, the connection setup procedure. So we have the connection with the vehicle. What should we do next? First, you have to know how to understand how the E-Sys work. E-Sys calculates all the needed software that should be deployed from the computer to the vehicle based on the vehicle order. Vehicle order will be read out from the vehicle. We need to modify the vehicle order so the computer, the E-Sys, the software, thinks that it is working with the Alpine car. So we have to change the vehicle order, add some parameters there, so the computer will think, okay, I'm working with the Alpine, that's why I have to deploy Alpine software into certain ECU. In our case, we'll be working with the transmission. So what should we do? Go to comfort mode. Over here, tell calculating, and the first thing you need to do is to read out vehicle order. Press read. For that operation, you will not require any launchers, anything. You can just use plain E-Sys, as in my case, I'm using version 3.36. Vehicle order have been read out. Whatever you read out, I always recommend you to save it straight away. Let's save it to the desktop and call it G30, because I'm working with the G30 FA, that's vehicle order from the German, and let's call it Alpine. Let's press save. We need to edit it. Press edit. Expand all the tree you can see here. We need to add 2 parameters and change the type code. The first thing, let's add the parameters. It is way simpler. At the slab element, just right click and press edit. To that vehicle order, you need to add 920 and 9XA. What are those codes? Why just those? Why not anything else? I'll just show you in a second. If you're not sure about what is that and so on, I will cover that in way more precise way in my E-Sys for Dummies Part 2. Yes, that video is not ready yet, but if you really feel you want to understand why it's that, how it's working and so on, just leave a comment about that. At the moment, I'll just tell you about all those two options. So the code 920 stands for Alpine without label, and 9 X-ray alpha stands for Alpine package. What does it mean? Believe me, all the vehicles that are produced by Alpine will have those codes present in their FA, and adding those parameters will tell the E-Sys, the program, that it should treat our car as an Alpine made car, and that's why deploy the proper software that we need. After you have added those codes, it doesn't matter in what sequence are you adding those. It is very important that you add just 3 symbols, and those are separated by comma. When you have added all those codes, always press that button over here. If you do not do that, you will not just apply the changes, and that's basically applying the changes. Click there, done. You can see it's grayed out now, and you can see the order is proper now. It is in alphabetical order. The E-Sys itself puts it to the right place, so you don't have to insert the code somewhere in the middle. Just type them at the end, and the E-Sys will make everything automatically. Next very important detail is that type Schlüssel. It is vehicle code. What does vehicle code mean? Basically, the vehicle code is the combination of engine and chassis. From those 4 digits, E-Sys, the software, understands with what vehicle it is operating. On every vehicle, the code is different. Okay, not on every vehicle, on every chassis with every engine and drive type, it is different. For example, my BMW G30 is with 3-liter diesel engine, and it is rear-wheel drive. So if you will decode that code, Juliet Charlie 91, you will get that it is G30 with 3-liter diesel engine, it is right-hand drive, and it is not X-drive. If my vehicle, for example, was X-drive, then that code will be way another one. So we have added a couple elements to our FA, but all the Alpine vehicles, they have that code also another one. That's why we have to change that code also. In my case, that type code should be as follows. It should be J Juliet Delta 51. You just retype that code, click wherever, and then, very important, you have to click over here and calculate FP. That's calculate vehicle protocol. If whatever the data you have entered is wrong, you will get an error. If it's correct one, nothing appears, everything is recalculated. So, and that's it. We can continue flashing my G30 with Alpine software. But there is another trick you just need to know. We have modified the SALAP element, you remember, adding those 9 X-ray alpha and 920. Also, we have modified the type Schlüssel, so the production code, and the next criterion is Zeit criterion, it's time criteria. On some vehicles, it also needs to be modified. You just have to know during which years when the certain Alpine model was produced. So if you're working with the BMW 5 Series in F10 chassis, you have to modify that Zeit criterion. It should be, your vehicle should be newer than December of 2011. How to make that? Also right click and press edit. So the first 2 digits will be the month and the second 2 digits will be the year. So if you need to modify your vehicle, for example, it should be December of 2011, so it should be in that way. If I'll press recalculate now, I'll get an error because there was no G30 produced in those years. Let's have a look. Just for your information, you can see, so there is some kind of error. So that time criteria is impossible. No problems. Let's change it back. My vehicle was produced in July 2017, and let's recalculate it again, and everything is okay, no errors present. It means we can continue. Very important, you just have to save the vehicle order you have modified. For that, over here, you can see the diskette icon, press it to save. You might wonder, hey Vladimir, where can we get all that information? What time criteria, all those options and so on, where can we get that? The best source I have found is Car Technology forum. A lot of useful information can be found there, and the table is taken from there. As you can see, for those vehicles of F series, if you use those type criteria with those time criteria, you will get the proper software needed to flash your transmission with the Alpine software. As I asked you before, if you know any other combinations you have tested and you are sure they're working, please leave them in the comments. Let's all together collect all the needed information for the Society of BMW Coders and Programmers, because there is not a single person in the world who can know everything. Believe me, I don't know everything. I just know the special secret website. It's called Google. You can find a lot of useful information. So if you do have found something, leave that remark in the comment. And now we can go back one step. The E-Sys asks, do you want to load the modified FA? You can press absolutely yes. I have already done some calculations before that. Don't pay attention to that. You will have the screen, so you have that modified FA, and now you need to press read ECU. Just read them out. After that, select complete flash. In those fields, I-step shipping should not be changed. It is the production date of your vehicle and you should leave it as it is. The only exception is if you were modifying the production date in the vehicle order. For example, if you're working with the older F10 and you want that to be changed, you have to match the production date, for example, to the one you have modified before. On that chassis, you can see it's impossible to make it earlier than 2015. But if we are working with the F10, then we have to select the production date that is matching the date of in the vehicle order. Target, just select one of those. It's updating connected to the databases you have. And for flashing process, you definitely need to have full database. And press calculate. With pressing the calculate, E-Sys, the software, calculates all the needed parameters and the software that have to be deployed into the car. Calculation process might take a couple minutes. It's not a problem. If you are flashing your car without So the software has been calculated. Let's collapse the tree. We can expand it, and we have to go to the EGS. That's our transmission. And actually, you can see that the blue file is the file that I had before in my vehicle, actually have at the moment. And the red one is the one you are going to be programmed with. For the G series, it is very important. If in that software file you get 47DA, it means it is Alpine software. On the F series, I'll just show you the table. On the F series, you can select with those production codes, time criteria, and actually you can see the software you need to get. So for example, if you're working with the F10, if you are not getting the software file 1367, it means something in your FA is wrong and you are not allowed to proceed. Otherwise, you'll just put some software in your transmission, and that will definitely not the Alpine software. So stick to that table. And of course, if you know whatever other parameters that are working and you have tested those, please leave them in the comments with type code, time criteria, and the calculations you have made. That will definitely help a lot of guys in our coding and programming society. After the calculations have been made, you need to save those. Press save, and the first file you are saving will be svt sol. Why that naming you'll understand a bit later. If you have something similar on your desktop, you can overwrite it. It's not a problem. Next calculation to be made is TAL calculation. It's transaction list calculation. Press TAL calculation. E-Sys will think a bit and press save again. So the next file will be svt tol transaction list. Press save. Yes. One more time, let's confirm our gearbox looks as it should. So we can see EGS, that's gearbox, only one file needs to be updated, so we can proceed. If you have another files to be updated, for example, the bootloader, coding file and some other files, it might be also okay. It means that just software in your gearbox is old one and it will be updated together with flashing to the Alpine software. But the minimum result you should see is at least one file. Next, you need to go to expert mode, tal calculation. E-Sys will not ask you anything. It's just because I was working with that before, so you'll just see that kind of window. First thing you need to load on that top window over here, load your tal file, that's transaction list. Press open. Now I highly recommend you to do the first movement, deselecting all those options. Why? Because if they are selected and you by mistake click start, the programming of the whole vehicle will begin, and believe me, that's definitely not the result you want. Next, very important, the second field, usually during the regular programming, the file called svt sol is loaded there. But if you are flashing your car with a modified vehicle order, it is not allowed to put anything there. Why? Because after the flashing process, the E-Sys will write the information, the modified vehicle order, to your car, and that's definitely not the thing you want to achieve, because otherwise you'll have a lot of different problems working with the car in the future, like diagnostics, coding or programming. That's why in case of changing software to the Alpine, leave that second target field blank. It is mandatory during all the retrofits and all that stuff. Vehicle order, let's load our vehicle order. Vehicle order should be modified one. Next thing we need to do, check software availability. Press check, it shows all software is present. If it shows some error, you can also bypass that by going to options, settings, options, and over here check software availability. You can uncheck that, then you can continue. Also very important, you have to uncheck that field and also uncheck that field. Why it's important? See my E-Sys for Dummies part 1. And we have made all the preparations. Now, before we go to programming itself, make sure your ignition is on. Yes, it's okay. Make sure your power is running to the car. Yes, I have checked that. It's okay. I can see it from here. Now, just select the transmission and select only the transmission, and be really careful. If you select, for example, another ECU, the E-Sys will flash that ECU also. That's not what we want. So, transmission only. We have checked that. We made sure everything is okay, and let's press start. Now the flashing process starts. Depends on the amount of the software you want to import into the ECU. It takes different time. For example, flashing the head unit might take, for example, 1 hour, like easily. That's why power supply is needed. Flashing only the gearbox doesn't take so much time. E-Sys calculates around 2 minutes. You can see the software is going into the gearbox, and that's why I told you at the beginning of the video. So during that procedure, flashing only your gearbox with Alpine software, it's okay to make it on the battery because the procedure is short, but your battery have to be in a good order, because if something happens now during the flashing process, you will not just be able to use the transmission until recovering that. So E-Sys tells us everything is successful. Press OK, and you can see it took only 59 seconds to flash that single file. That's perfect. After all the flashing, I always like to go to coding tab, go there. You can again, for example, read the vehicle order from the car, read again the ECUs. I usually like to collapse it, expand, and I always like to check the ECU we're working with. For example, that transmission, that's EGS. As you can see, the coding file is present. There is no corrupted files inside. Everything looks fine. It means we can close the E-Sys for now. And actually that's it. We have flashed our gearbox to Alpine software. After a flashing process, it's totally okay that we have a lot of different errors on our dashboard, on our iDrive. It just shows nothing is working, it's so bad, and so on and so on. Just ignore those messages. We need to start the engine to make sure that everything is working fine. Before starting the engine, it is very important to disconnect the power supply, because during the engine start, the voltage peak will be so high you can just burn your power supply. That's why let's turn off the ignition. Ignition is off now, and let's disconnect the power supply. And the moment of truth, starting the engine. Let's close the door. And if software went in properly, now when I'll switch to drive mode, I should see over here, I can see D1. So it means the Alpine software is in that. And that's it. The next step will be field tests. I'll run some tests. Of course, I'll record those and tell you results later. I'll drive with that software for a week or two, so I can give you the best experience and more knowledge in my next part. After working with the ECUs, with flashing those, it never harms to read out the vehicle with the diagnostic software like E-Sys and delete all the errors. This is not the topic of that video, I'll make that offline. If you really do like my videos, please hit a like and subscribe to my channel not to miss any important information. See you next time, bye. First impression about Alpine software is definitely positive. I really do like the fact that I can see the gear that my transmission is operating on during the comfort mode, not only the sport mode. So I can see like D1, D2, D3. It is very comfortable. I really do like that option. All the shifts feel nice and crisp. I haven't seen any like lag or whatever during work on my transmission. Yes, the drive was kind of short, maybe like 5-10 minutes, but as I promised, I'll make a full detailed review with a performance check during the part 2. Also in the part 2 I can answer all your questions you might have during seeing part 1 of the video. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll answer them in part 2. See you, bye.